Welcome to Noncompliant America. No cuts, no commercials, no mercy. Just like I hiked through the rain so clear-cut with a chainsaw on my back. No apologies, no sponsors, just black copy, truth serum straight from the vein. Lock your doors, kill the porch light, and ditch that smart speaker before it rats you out to the glowies, and pour something stronger than a soy latte, because today, we're not just connecting dots. We're welding them into a cage around the Uniparty's wet dream of open borders and endless amnesty. Two stories just detonated like a cluster minion over Thanksgiving leftovers, and if you're still snoring through this after I lay it out, I'll personally be road tripping to your cul-de-sac with a bullhorn and a thermos of Red Pill Espresso. We're talking Trump's inner circle. Dropping the hammer on third world migrations like it's 1776 all over again. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, the Wall Street wolf in sheep's clothing, yanking the federal teat away from every cartel mule and NGO pet project, sucking the lifeblood of American taxpayers. But here's the Molotov cocktail they don't want you to notice. These aren't isolated policy tweaks. They're the opening salvos into the 1-2 punch that could light the fuse on the Insurrection Act itself. Yeah, you heard that right. The same nuclear option in the deep state screamers called fascist panic when Trump floated it in 2020. Now, it's staring down the barrel of reality, loaded and ready because you slam the border shut and starve the invasion of the welfare steroids. The real fireworks start. Let's start with the border blitzkrieg. Straight from Mar-a-Lago War Room. This is from ZeroHedge.com. Over the holiday haze, Trump's team leaked the draft of the executive order that makes his first-term Muslim ban look like a speed bump. A total ironclad shutdown on all entries from third world hellholes, no visas, no asylum claims, no, quote, humanitarian parole, grift, nada. We're talking 19 countries already on the list, from Somalia's pirates to Venezuela's madhouse, expanded to cover every failed state factory pumping out military-age invaders faster than Boeing pumps out 737s. This is from NBC News. Trump didn't mince words in his Truth Social post Thursday night after that gut punch shooting of 2 National Guard members just blocks from the White House by some Afghanistan visa overstayer with a grudge. He called it a permanent pause on migration from anywhere that can't spell civilization. This on Newsweek reports no more plane loads of Haitians turning Springfield, Ohio into a zombie apocalypse is set. No more Somali enclaves in Minneapolis turning taxpayer dollars into Sharia speed traps. Zero Hedge, and it gets this. Zero Hedge nailed it yesterday. This isn't just a wall. It's a legal runway for the Insurrection Act. You ban the inflow, you declare the whole rotten mess of invasion under Article 4, Section 4, which is, by the way, with 20 million plus ghosts haunting census rolls and cartel scouts mapping every suburb from SeaTac to Spokane. Then boom, Trump federalizes the guard, rolls the tanks down I-5, and the blue city clowns in Seattle or Portland start chaining themselves to ICE vans. And then it starts the great unwind. PBS reports no more sanctuary virtue signals from AOC's cocktail circuit. It's federal supremacy or federal bust. And polls? 40% of the U.S. are already cheering for boots on the necks to make the deportations happen. That's not fringe. That's a groundswell big enough to drown Lincoln Memorial. Now layer on Bessent's gut punch from this morning. Well, that was actually a couple days ago. The Treasury hawk who made his bones shorting the pound for Soros before flipping the script to drain the swamp. Fox Business caught the details, proposed regulations dropping in like an anvil on the refundable portions of these credits for anyone without papers, effective tax year 2026. Here's the translation. Your EBT cards is now a one-way ticket to the bus station, self-deport or starve. Courtesy of the guy who turned hedge fund wizardry into border warfare. Tie these ribbons together and you've got a blueprint for the great replacement in reverse. Ban the flood at the dam, poison the well downstream, then unleash the guard if the rats swarm the pumps. Crazy amount of things happening. There's a bunch of sources and everything else in reference to this article that'll be posted at news.noncompliant America. But the fact in the matter is things are starting to move internally. Aside from the border being locked down now it's time to get rid of the sugar cube off of the anthill. So here's the gut wrench. You can't dodge this. Trump's not whispering sweet nothings, but he's blueprinting the biggest national house cleaning since the bonus army got hosed. Ban the boats, bleed the benefits, then boot the bodies. And if the sanctuary snowflakes like Tina KOTAX want to riot in their rainbow chaps, the Insurrection Act says, hold my Diet Coke, and then turned blue states red with regret on January 20th. Now, Ivan Raiklin says December 19th, January 6th, and January 20th. Those are the dates that you want to watch. That's Independence Day 2.0. The travel ban drops like a gut-wrenching gilliot. And the clawback for your stolen refunds. Human rights first, that's the argument. Human rights. And we'll play Tina KOTAX's response here in just a minute. The Afghan shooter, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. And when SCOTUS, packed with Trump's appointees, swats down the inevitable lawsuits that are coming, it's checkmate. Comrades stock food, not just cans, pallets. They stock ammo. Stock courage, because the great unwind is not a spectator sport. Your kid's future isn't a debate club. It's a battlefield. And Trump's drawing the lines in the razor wire that resolve in the Great Awakening. It woke up pissed, and now it's coming for the invaders, the enablers. Every limp-wristed lobbyist who thought we'd roll over to remnants and refuge. This is Noncompliant America, folks, and thank you very much for joining. So exciting things happening. And this just dropped. Trump is set. He's already closed the airspace of Venezuela. And by the time this show broadcasts and airs over the airwaves, this may already be happening, where the invasion of Venezuela may start. And I'm kind of up in the air about Venezuela. I feel like it's definitely in our hemisphere. It is a very critical piece of the voting integrity fight that's been going on for years and years. A lot of the voting machines and corruption comes from Venezuela. So there's a lot of things tied to that, as well as China is very heavily involved down there and plays a critical role on the migration process. So rather than just addressing things at the border, you have to cut off the supply chain. And that's part of warfare. And I believe that's what's tied into Venezuela. A lot of people say it's about oil. As you know, we've talked about it being oil driven, which it very well could be. Because as you know, Venezuela has some of the biggest oil reserves in the world. And there's huge supply down there that could be beneficial for us, which is great. But I think that this is a necessary evil that needs to happen, and it is a war that should be taking place versus the Ukrainian BS or whatever's going on in Gaza and Israel. This is way more prevalent, as I'm not for war. I don't think we should go to war. But keep in mind, they've been at war with us for decades. Through the migrant invasions, through the economic warfare, through the social justice warfare that's happening, and now we're fighting against it because we have a beachhead in the office. Now, I've been very critical of Trump. Very critical. And I still am, and we still should be. But this is a step in the right direction of what the voters asked for. The number one topic for pretty much every voter is shut down the border and figure out the migrant influx that's been going on, and then cut off all of the assistance that's tied to that. Guy did a report the other day talking about if you go to another country, and he gave some examples like Japan, Russia, North Korea. You go to these other countries. Do you know what the punishment is if you enter North Korea illegally? The punishment is death. If you go to Japan, do you know what the punishment is? 2 years in jail. If you go to Russia, I think it's 18 months in a labor camp. You don't get free benefits and get set up to where your family gets $6,000 to $10,000 a month to live, and we set you up with housing, and we have all these nonprofits that come to your aid, and they're doing humanitarian work. When you got bussed in and shuttled in, that doesn't work. That's a non-sustainable thing. And if you collaborate that with all of the indigenous people, I don't know what you call them, the people that have lived here, the white people and the black people, the people that have lived here and that were born here. And I'm not talking about if your parents came here illegally. I'm talking about the Ellis Island folks, the people that came here in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and settled here legally. All those people are getting disenfranchised, and they don't matter. But if you're illegal, you can walk right across the border, not anymore, and get set up. And there's all these nonprofits, which is tied with what Doge was doing with the USAID funding. That's where a lot of that funding was going. For pennies on the dollar are going to the actual people and families and people that are coming here. And the NGOs are taking the rest of the money and siphoning the money, whether it be through Ukraine, and then bringing it back for government donations to the Democrats in Oregon and a lot of the Republicans all over and Democrats all over. That's where the funding goes. So they're using government taxpayers to funnel the money back to themselves with all these NGO fronts. That's what Elon Musk was exposing. Has all that stuff been cut off? No. Why not? Well, it takes time. But this is a great thing, something that has been needed for this country for decades. It's kind of like what's happening with the Polish. The Polish don't have an immigration problem. They don't have an influx of illegals coming in on their boats and anything else. They don't have any of those issues. We shouldn't have those issues either. This is the preservation of the United States. Preservation of America. Americanism versus globalism. That's the war that we're in. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the other side. All right, shifting gears here. I want to talk about the pandemic and the payload associated with it. And Stu Peters, whether you like him or not, he's always raw and uncut. He has no filtration. He's first to admit when he's wrong. He's first to admit when he's right. And he is a truth seeker. One of the things that he was talking about are the elites and how they have constructed this world since COVID, which was all part of the Agenda 21 plan. If you haven't studied the Agenda 21 plan, you have to look at it because that gives you context to what the COVID rollout was and how it was planned out. But he's still talking about COVID and how everybody's kind of left it and stopped caring about holding these people accountable. Are we going to hold these people accountable ever? Are they ever going to be held accountable for all their actions and the grievances and the mass deaths that are tied around the COVID scam? So I want to play a little excerpt and some things that he was talking about with Brian Ardis, who does phenomenal work, and play part of that interview. Take a listen.
Kids. There's still people out there who just can't wait to get their next fix, to get their next booster. They get an emotional high off of getting jabbed. A lot of these people are probably so twisted that they get a sexual high off of it as well. They march themselves into an early grave, just like countless others have been doing since the poison first hit the market. And that's something that you don't hear enough about anymore either. About the fact that these jabs are responsible for the death and destruction of human life all over the world, especially here in the United States. People seem to have lost interest in holding the genocidal maniacs behind all of this accountable. So they need to be reminded just how bad this really was, just how many people died. How many people are now walking around as ticking time bombs? Maybe you need to see some evidence. Well, earlier this year, Dr. McCullough testified on this topic to Congress. And when he was asked what kind of evidence he has showing that COVID jabs caused a massive die-off, he responded with the very best evidence that anyone could: autopsies. Dr. McCullough showed that nearly 3/4 of autopsies conducted amid the jab rollout proved that the so-called COVID vaccine really was a death shot. Watch.
And do you have any science to back up your opinion?
The best data are autopsies. So in the largest autopsy series published to date, I know because I'm the senior author, of all the deaths we examined, and we re-reviewed them. We had an adjudication committee. We had ways of arbitration deciding on did the vaccine cause death. The answer is, of these cases that came in for autopsy after vaccination, 73.9% of individuals, it was determined that the vaccine was the cause of death. First author is Holscher College.
You heard that, right? 73.9% of autopsies studied found that the COVID clot shot was the true cause of death, no matter what may have been written on the death certificate. 73.9% of autopsies confirmed that the shot killed that person. The COVID scamdemic and the subsequent release of a biological weapon at the end of a needle were and continue to be the biggest genocide in all of human history. And no matter what anyone else tells you, it's not over. Dr. Brian Ardis has been keeping up with the latest developments on all of this. He joins us now to share more. 73.9%, that's the figure. To that, you say what?
I say 100% accurate information and data, and I really applaud Dr. Peter McCullough standing there and actually presenting that information for the public, because it is absolutely true. And to remind everybody out there, and Stu included in all of your audiences, I want to say this: Kaiser Permanente. If you want to know why it is, they are introducing a new variant called Stratus to try to convince all of you to be still afraid of a COVID variant. I just want you to know, do you know what healthcare workers have reported in a most recent survey by Kaiser Permanente? In America, hospitals, 500,000 medical staff and hospital nurses and medical doctors surveyed recently. Do you know what they reported was the actual percentage of all current hospital workers who are up to date on their COVID-19 variant booster shots is? Do you know what that percentage is? A whopping 17% of them have any faith in the COVID-19 new variant booster shots and have actually received an up-to-date COVID-19 booster as of this year. This tells you the amount of doubt, the amount of risk, and it is reported when they were asked, why are you not up to date on your vaccines? 83% of all healthcare workers in America this year, they all reported, we've seen the evidence in our own hospitals of the atrocious deaths, infertility, miscarriages that have been created, the turbo cancers. We don't have faith in that technology. And it not only came to light with the COVID-19 vaccines currently, what they were most shocked about in the survey, it has spilled over into all other seasonal vaccines they are mandated and required for decades to receive to keep working in hospitals. The annual flu shot rates declined in 2024, now in 2025, and all healthcare workers around America to a whopping 30% of them are current and up to date on their annual flu vaccines. And they say they all have extreme doubts in the entire vaccine agenda. These are your healthcare workers. These are the individuals that are standing in the hospitals to receive those.
So there you have it. That's great news, great reporting. And I think it's fascinating because, and they continue on. I mean, it's a great interview. I guess everybody should watch it. It's going to be posted on my X. It actually is posted on my X right now because it's not just me, trying to get this information out. It's creating a channel and an ecosystem. So you can go to news.noncompliantamerica.com and we're posting all kinds of articles that are deep diving deeper into some of these topics with the trends that are happening. And this is a great trend. People are rejecting the medical system in its entirety. And this is why they tried so hard to keep RFK out of office. Now, RFK has been doing great work. There's a lot of things that he could be improving on, but it does take time. It does take time. So we have to give this time. Keep in mind, it hasn't even been a year of the Trump administration. We have 3 more years of a lame duck president that has no aspirations to be president again. He's not running for anything, so he can serve his entire administration serving his agenda, which is phenomenal. So it's great that people are recognizing not just the COVID vaccine, which has always been my opinion, that all vaccines are tied to similar things. The COVID vaccine was just a super vaccine that made it very obvious and very apparent for people to have reactions immediately. But the other vaccines, they just kill you slower. They just give you more problems because they can profit from you much, much more. We'll be right back. All right, we're jumping around a little bit today just because I'm trying to keep things interesting. But I want to play something that the supposed Oregon governor, Tina KOTAX, that says that she'll investigate and prosecute any federal agents who enforce immigration laws. If you study history, go back to the history books of the Civil War and talking about the governors of Delaware, for one, and how they were talking about the separation of federal and states. And that separation has been a great debate for a very long time. In some ways, it's very difficult to narrow down where the jurisdiction is and who has what right. But we saw this in plain view, whereas you had Oregon locked down for roughly 2 years, and Florida basically opened up almost immediately. Huge contrast. I had a friend come over from Wyoming. They never even had masks in Wyoming at all during COVID. And he came here and visited for a couple days. And I remember he went into the store and they wouldn't serve him. He just wanted to get a water. And he was trying to buy a water at the counter and he didn't have a mask on. The guy behind the counter said, "You have to have a mask on before I can sell you this product. But we have them for sale right here for $2. So if you buy this mask, then I can sell you the water." And he's like, What the heck is this? What is going on? What's going on with you guys? You guys are just crazy. But that was a clear example of the separation between state and federal regulations. And I think that's a huge thing that Trump should have exercised a little bit more, because he kind of let these governors, such as Kate Brown at the time, kind of run their own little country. And we see that with Gavin Newsom too in Washington, and we see that, California, and we see it in Washington and New York, and all these different things. But this is another example of that. So where's the jurisdiction? Does she even have the right or the jurisdiction to now? She's gonna just take a listen. Just take a listen to what she says, and then we'll talk about it.
Hello, Oregon. Governor KOTAX here. I want to talk with you about something that should concern every one of us. I believe, as you do, in the rule of law and keeping our community safe. We also believe in being a welcoming place.
Hold on one second. Keeping our community safe. This is keeping our community safe. This is keeping our community safe. Getting the criminals off the streets, getting the drugs off the streets, that is keeping our community safe. But just continue.
Where our immigrant and refugee communities help our state thrive. The ongoing violent actions of the Federal Department of Homeland Security are unacceptable, going after Oregonians and stoking fear in the name of immigration enforcement, but using excessive force, reckless tactics, and even putting bystanders and local law enforcement in danger. It's not how public safety works, and it's not okay in Oregon. No government agency is above the law. I fully support the AG and local DAs who have put the federal government on notice. Oregon is monitoring all ICE actions closely. We will investigate misconduct, and if a federal officer breaks Oregon law, they will be held accountable, just like anyone else. I will not tolerate reckless or unconstitutional behavior in our state. While ICE activity has seen an uptick in recent weeks, so is the commitment of Oregonians.
Notice how she says Constitution. When do the Democrats ever talk about the Constitution? When they want to invert it or use it like they have some righteous bystander or moral position, they want to flex the Constitution even though they wipe their ass with it all the time and violate our rights all the time. For example, these signatures, just like what they're trying to do. We got over 150,000 signatures for this tax bill that they're trying to do. If you haven't signed it, go to notax.or. They have all the locations posted on there. They're doing a phenomenal job. I've signed it. I signed it right away, and I've gotten all my friends. Everybody needs to sign this. Even though the threshold was only 100,000, we need to get to 300,000. But notice how she's talking about the Constitution all of a sudden with a smirk on her face. Disgusting. This disgusting creature that has no problems arresting good-hearted Americans that maybe don't believe in her views. No problems on her account. She doesn't care about the Constitution until there's some type of money involved. Because as you know, a lot of these programs, a lot of these NGOs, a lot of these nonprofits that are profiting from migration and all the illegals, they're profiting from it. That's their motivation. That's what's motivating her. Has nothing to do with sanctuary communities and healthy communities, healthy living, and we all want to live in peace and harmony. Even though Portland is a dump and it's one of the most disgusting cities in the state. And she lives there. It doesn't matter. But the Constitution, all of a sudden, the Constitution. Let's talk about the Constitution. Let's continue.
To show up for each other, taking care of their neighbors, and standing up when they see something that isn't right. Thank you for doing that. Let's continue to work together to defend the safety, dignity, and rights of every Oregonian. Thank you.
So basically, she is telling the citizens to rise up against ICE, even though everything is above board. They are well within their rights to do this. These people are here illegally. But Ann Coulter, I love sometimes Ann Coulter. I've been super critical of things that she's done and said and over the past years, but super interesting. She said, alert, Oregon state employees. You can refuse illegal orders. You get it? If you know, then you know. If you don't, you know. But she's basically stating, like, local law enforcement, you can refuse illegal orders. It would be illegal for you to try to arrest ICE agents. Isn't that funny? Because the Democrats said that they should refuse all of Trump's orders that are quote unquote illegal, even though they are legal. Now, this is going to create a fight. This is going to create a conflict. But this also spirals into the direction that I see things going, which they are pitting both groups against each other because they want the chaos. They want the constitutional crisis. They want Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act. They want Trump to go into a martial law state, which he's softly kind of doing, just like what he did in COVID. They want that to happen because that's going to give them the justification for next year to try to get the Democrats in the House and the Senate and eventually the presidency in 2028. They're beating the drum of this fascism, even though they don't know what fascism is, to try to create this. Now, it's a very slippery slope. I personally think Trump should deputize the citizens, run them through a simple 6-week training program, 4-week training program, something like that. Deputize everybody and start rounding up all these illegals. I think that would be incredible. It would open up a bunch of jobs, give people, fight the unemployment that's happening. I think there's a lot of willing and able people that would be willing to do it. But that's how you do it. And you can work with the sheriff's departments from all over the counties and start doing this and utilize some of the resources of the people that are here that just want the same thing. Was everybody up in arms in El Salvador when he arrested 130,000 MS-13 gang members? 130,000 in less than 6 months. Now, it's a tiny country, too. But think of the impact that made on the country. Now there's kids playing outside. It's one of the safest countries to live in right now. And that's all the Trump administration is trying to do. And they're trying to paint it out just like as they would, just like as they always do, is they get all these young kids to go and testify in front of the courtroom, talk about how their parents got deported and they don't know what to do and they're lost. And it's sad, but here's the thing. You can go with them. You can go with them. Just go with your parents. It's very simple. Families move around all the time. Families move to different countries all the time. This one's just an involuntary move. But are the same kids up in arms if their parents get arrested and go to prison? Are they going and testifying in front of the courtroom stating, my parents are in prison, you need to let them out? No, that doesn't work with the social construct of the heartstrings. But if they were in prison, nobody's coming to their aid. But they've all broken a law. And the law is you've come here illegally. There's pathways for legal citizenship that have been opened. But you don't get to get on food stamps. You don't get housing. You don't get all this other stuff by just existing. That creates a very docile, dysfunctional society. And it's got to be fixed. And I'm glad to hear that the Trump administration is finally taking this task seriously. This is what's needed. Otherwise, it will no longer be the United States of America. It's going to be some regional multifaceted conglomerate between Canada, United States, and Mexico. And that's the long-term plan, by the way. We'll be right back.
I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.
All right, welcome back. Joshua Michael, Noncompliant America. And I just wanted to say that, just to give you a little bit of an update, I've said some things about a certain judge that was overseeing and still is overseeing some of my custody cases, and I was very critical of him, and rightfully so. I still think he was absolutely in the wrong on his decision. I think he could have done a lot better. It's been extremely impactful on my family and on my other child, on basically removing custody, which is crazy. It's just crazy to think about, and it's very it's a very emotional thing. But I will say there's been some progress. And I will say also that he was very fair and reasonable on his decisions in that. So I just wanted to put that out there and say that because the opposing counsel attorney, it feels like it was damning to play segments of my show where I was being critical of the judge, and thought it would be very damning for me. But I will say that the judge was very fair in his decision, and we're going to be moving forward on fighting for that. And I do absolutely believe that the thumbs were on the scale. I absolutely believe that there were outside actors involved in doing this very thing. And or maybe there's not an outside actor, but it just shows you the injustices on how dysfunctional the Oregon court system is in its entirety. And I'm not anybody special, which very well could be the case. Because if you saw the outcome based on the case and what was presented, it would blow your mind, and that's on appeal. The appeals court is very slow. I'm going on almost 2 years in an appeal just to spend time with my son. It's wild, folks. And I guarantee you there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families, thousands of families all over that are going through the same exact experience. I don't think that I'm special. Maybe somebody didn't have their thumb on the scale and was doing that on purpose, but something's got to change. The court system is very, very dysfunctional. If this is happening to everybody, then we definitely have to change that. And I think that's one of the biggest catastrophes of this all-inclusive state, pro-mother state that we live in. It's egregious, especially given the fact that kids are actually way better off in a single dad household than a single mom household. Way better. The statistics are there. They're through the roof. It's very obvious, and you can see that. So I just want to pray for everybody involved and hope that they could see it in their heart to understand that no matter how bad of a picture they want to paint me, is I'm just trying to see my son and spend time with him while he's still young. That's what I want to do. That's one of the most rewarding, best things in my life, and it's been taken from me. It's absolutely insane. And the level of heartache that I've gone through it, I think has made me a stronger person. But the amount of damage that has likely already happened, I'm going to be dealing with in my son for the rest of his life. And that's a really sad thing. But at any moment, anytime, any there, I'm going to be there for him 100%. So I just want to say that because I think it's very important that we keep things on the level. And I call balls and strikes. So Dr. Ely, who has done phenomenal work in regards to COVID, vaccine. I met him during 2020, during the lockdowns, and had him out at some of our rallies and things that we were doing. Has just never quit. He always is just cutting edge. He does radiation exposure with cell phone 5G. He has tons of science surrounding that. But more recently, he's done some tests with the chemtrails or contrails, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're spraying in the atmosphere, which has caused, I believe, these beautiful skies that we've been seeing. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, like all these crazy orange colors and cool things. That's really pretty to look at. However, that's poison that you're looking at because they're spraying us constantly. But I want to play this quick 1.5-minute report on what he's discovered. And keep in mind, this is up in Portland, what he's discovered with these chemtrails. Take a listen.
Did some testing, and so yesterday I'm seeing these chemtrails, and today I'm in my sauna sweating, and I want to tell everyone why. The first test that we did, Pastor, was we went and we sweated, and I sweated for a bunch of days, but I sweated and collected the sweat samples and then an engineer and sent them off to the lab and said, what's coming out when there's no chemtrails? And what we found really corroborates Dane Wigington's great work at Geoengineering Watch and also Mike Adams, Health Ranger's great work on the sky fallout. We corroborated that what's coming out of us are aluminum, barium, and strontium. But this is where it gets really exciting. The aluminum is far and away the largest short-circuiting heavy metal that we are being exposed to in these chemtrails. So with no chemtrails, the amount that came out in my sweat, Pastor, was 281 nanograms per gram. Now that's more than triple any other metal coming out. So we know that where that's still coming in from every time there is a chemtrail, and maybe I didn't sweat before that, it showed up. And now check this number out. 281 is the number, 281. Now, the day after a chemtrail, same experiment, just same sample size, everything. We collected the sweat again, 2,958 nanograms per gram. We went from 281 to 2,958 nanograms overnight, just with chemtrail days. So the first message we have to get out to everyone who loves God, we have to get this out, is that when you see a chemtrail, it is your duty to sweat within 24 hours to get that waste that you have just breathed in, you couldn't even see it, get it out of your body before it can embed in your cell structure and start disrupting the electricity that God designed your body to flow on.
So that's really interesting that this is happening, but they are doing tests. And so we need to ask and put more pressure in exposing this to what are they spraying? Now, this comes down to a theory that I've had in regards to Operation Fishbowl in the 1950s when they were blowing up the ionosphere with nuclear bombs and testing them into our atmosphere. The theory is very simple. You blow a nuclear bomb up, you're going to disintegrate anything that's there. And as you know, there's a protective layer surrounding the Earth of protections from the sun, which could also mean sunscreen wasn't even a thing before the 1950s either, because we had that layer of protection. And so the theory, I believe, is what they're being told, and it very well could be, because as you know, for every great invention lies a new problem, is that they actually have to geoengineer the atmosphere in order to counter all of the destruction that man has done to the ionosphere and the atmosphere. They might be having to counter that because they destroyed it. And the quote-unquote climate change argument could be directly correlated with that very thing. And so as we may be getting warmer, or as we may be getting cooler, maybe there's bigger inflections within our ecosystem, could be because the United States government with DARPA was blowing nuclear bombs up into the ionosphere in the 1950s and essentially might have destroyed it. Imagine if they'd done it to a rainforest. If they blew up a rainforest, we'd have to supplement air from other avenues. Thanks for listening. Joshua Michael, Noncompliant America. Follow me on X at NoncompliantAF. Have a great day.